NFL is king. And it all started on Saturday with your team.
Yeah.
And it ended last night with the Commanders and the Giants and everything in between that happened. I can't remember a week that was this enjoyable. Maybe it was division weekend last year in the playoffs, where I felt like every game came down to the end. There were so many different situations that happened. And then when you take in totality all the games that took place over this weekend, it was remarkable. The NFL Network had 3 unbelievable games. Even though the Browns-Ravens game wasn't pretty, it was kind of like the Commanders and the Giants game. No, it was rough. It was physical. They were battling for yards. Guys were laying it out. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, most of these games ended in ways that many of us have never even seen before.
Well, the one, of course, with the Raiders and the Patriots, nobody's ever seen and probably will never see again.
The Colts and the Vikings, too.
Well, that too, yes.
But I could also say last night, between the Commanders and the Giants, the Giants got a break last night because that last pass to Curtis Samuel in the end zone, that was interference. And, the guys were talking about it last night. Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico were talking about it last night. It was a blatant interference call that was not called, so they got a break. So Giant fans got a break in that particular situation.
Well, also the illegal formation as well, when the wide receiver Dotson is pointing to the official, like they always do. Am I on the line of scrimmage? He didn't say no. He didn't give him any indication he needed to move. They score a touchdown on that play, and it's called back because of an illegal formation.
So I'm thinking that the official probably only gives him an affirmative when he's where he's supposed to be. But anyway, that's just one of 1,000 plays that took place this weekend. And good for the Giants and good for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They needed to make plays late in this game. It wasn't pretty. There wasn't a lot of great, the scoring opportunities. But, man, Richie James makes some plays. Daniel Jones makes some plays with his legs, makes some nice throws. Saquon Barkley and his spin moves last night, really running hard in the fourth quarter. All adds up to an amazing win. And by the way, I was thinking about Kayvon Thibodeaux's performance last night. He makes a tackle and he goes running off the field. I don't know how many times he's got to go run off the field last night, but I will say this: he was a one-man wrecking crew on that defense.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for his big play, the sack, the fumble, the recovery, and the touchdown, then this game wouldn't have been the way it was, and he was awesome. This was his coming out party. I'll give him credit because prior to the game, he said, "Prime time loves me." I sort of rolled my eyes at that because he hadn't really had a great season leading up to this game, and he was awesome last night. He was probably the best defender on the field, and that's saying a lot because the Commanders have a great defense.
I want you to think of something. So your boy John Randall, your favorite Minnesota Viking player.
That's right, Hall of Famer John Randall, yes.
Yeah. So the great Lawrence Taylor. They had games like week in and week out like that.
Yeah.
Like they were a menace.
Reggie White.
Yeah, a menace every game that they stepped on the field.
Yep.
And now that Kayvon Thibodeaux showed that he can do it.
Got to keep doing it.
Now the expectations are going to be like, okay, you had your one game. Go have another 150 games like that.
He looked like he was capable, that's for sure.
He looked like he was shot out of a cannon last night. So, whatever happened to him between, the last game that they had last week, Philadelphia, the week before that, the Washington game, and last night, whatever happened over these last 2 weeks, he started to come on a little bit, and then nobody played well against Philadelphia. But he was shot out of a cannon last night, and he made his draft pick worthy by last night's performance. Like, in other words, you came away from that game saying, that guy is a menace. That guy now has to be worried about by opposing offenses.
Sure, which the entire season we were searching for him, a couple of moments here or there, and then last night was definitely, this was that moment where it was like, all right, that first-round pick, that 5th overall pick, it looks like Joe Shane did the right thing, and we know how important edge rushers are in the NFL. To me, the Giants' defense was just spectacular last night. Now, we talked about the breaks that they got at the end of the game, but, getting that fumble, too, on the previous drive with Taylor Heineke was a huge deal. Absolutely tremendous play. Now, you could blame Taylor Heineke for coughing up the ball, but the Giants were all over his ass, and they needed a turnover in that spot, and they got it.
So, welcome to the Taylor Heineke experience.
Yeah.
The game previous to this, he makes this unbelievable 4th down throw, and he gets him in the scoring position, and they tie the game, and they end up, making plays that, very few players are capable of making in the league. But then yesterday, he has the fumble. It's just that's who he is as a player. Like the energy's there, the excitement's there, I guess the belief in his abilities are there, but the coughing up of the football, the mistakes, the running around, sometimes the inaccurate throws, those are the things that he is also a part of his game and make it really frustrating.
Yeah, and the Giants right now are basically, they'd have to really screw it up. Everything would have to go in an opposite direction. To me, they are making the postseason. This victory was huge for them, and I think as everybody's breaking down percentages and what does it mean, what does it not mean, but whoever won this game last night was basically going to have an 80-something% chance of making the playoffs, and because it was the Giants, they are sitting pretty at this moment. They've got 3 games left. They go to Minnesota on Christmas Eve. They've got the Indianapolis Colts, and then, of course, they've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who, as we know, will have everything sewed up by that point. So I know Gardner Minshew is one of the better backups in the league, but we'll see if the Giants need that game or not. They might even have clinched by that point.
The interesting thing for the Giants is that the Commanders play at San Francisco this week.
Yeah.
So you got to believe that most of us probably think that's a loss. I would wonder about the Giants going to Minnesota. The other team that you have to worry about is Detroit.
Yeah, it's 7-7 now.
Right.
Yeah.
As we get into this game yesterday, I got so frustrated and angry the last 2 minutes of the game. And I'm not saying that if they would have done it the way that I think that they should have done it, that they would have had a chance to tie the game or even win the game. But they would have had a much better chance, I believe, to put themselves in position to kick a reasonable field goal to tie the game. And that was with about 1:39 to go in the game. It's 3rd and 19. And Zach throws the ball 22 yards down the field to Garrett Wilson. I tweeted about this last night. And, that play went in bounds, and you have 3 timeouts left. And I know that, it's never etched in stone. There are principles that you can attach to late game situational football. And a lot of coaches go over this stuff during the week. A lot of coaches sit down with their analytics guys. They sit down with their offensive and defensive coordinators, and they talk about the way they're going to handle things. And if you have 3 timeouts in your back pocket, you feel pretty good about, being able to stop the clock whenever you really want to stop the clock with less than a minute to go. And, and I think that was the thought process that Rob Saleh was going with. And I was sitting there with Coach Cowher yesterday as this was going on. And you as a coach have to understand the situation that you're finding yourself in, because every game is different. That's why we love the NFL. And when situational football starts to unfold and coaches start making decisions and those decisions go awry or something happens where, like yesterday, what happened, the Jets ran out of time and they also had a timeout left, is just inexcusable. So and I was always taught this, that with 3 timeouts left, if you have a long completion in the middle of this final drive, you want to use one of those timeouts because you want to save those precious 30 seconds that it's going to take you to run from where you started the previous play to snapping the next ball on the next play and then ending that play.
Yeah, basically they left 30 or more seconds out there to give them an opportunity to get closer than the field goal attempt that they had of 58 yards. And, right. That was a huge problem for Rob Saleh. Now, he said after the game, he's like, well, we had the 3 timeouts, so time wasn't a factor. Well, it was a factor because you had to call your second timeout with only 1 second left, and you left one on the table. That's the difference between a tie game or not. So there's totally, as you said, inexcusable, but that's not the only reason why they lost this game. There's a lot of issues there. That punt return for a touchdown was just a joke. That guy wasn't even touched, Khalif Raymond, when he takes that thing to the house.
Former Jet, by the way.
Right. And, I don't want to sit here and crush the young man because he's gone through a lot this year. But this game, in my opinion, is not close with a competent quarterback because that Lions defense, who so happened to play their best game of the year, I wonder why, the Lions defense stinks. And if Mike White, a healthy Mike White, is in there, he would have had a similar game, in my opinion, than what he had in that game that he played against the Bears because those defenses are very similar. Now, they've gotten a little bit better, and Aiden Hutchinson's a good player, but the Jets would have put up 31 points, in my opinion, if a healthy Mike White was playing. And Zach Wilson in that third quarter was just brutal. Now, I know he had a little spark here, there, got the ball down the field, whatever.
Got away with a couple plays.
But, I mean, some of these throws are just atrocious, just absolutely terrible. And there's guys wide open. He doesn't see them. He misses them. It's really, really bad. And this was the fear of him having to be launched back into this situation because of injury when he was only really gone for 3 weeks, when he had flaws that were deeper and needed more time. So this loss was brutal, absolutely brutal for the Jets, because I thought, overall, they're the better football team. Special teams let them down. Coaching let them down. The quarterback was awful. I mean, it was just like, the defense on that fourth and inches. They let a guy who was Fliegelman could probably run a 40 faster than that guy could.
So that play there is called what we used to call back in the day. I don't know what the Lions refer to it as. We used to refer to it as Y hide. And Y meaning the tight end.
Yeah.
So you fake a heavy-duty run play in a situation where the defense is going to sell out and try to stop the run and try to stop your team from gaining the first down, line to gain. And what you do is you run this heavy play fake. The tight end, the Y position, is basically running a delay pattern. It looks like he's blocking. And then with all the helter-skelterness of this play happening, somebody, whether it be Jordan Whitehead or whoever had the tight end in this specific situation, completely loses where they are on the field and what they're doing and what their responsibility is in pass coverage, because they're selling out in run defense. And the tight end delays, and then sneaks out right across the line of scrimmage and ends up on the other side of the formation. I think I threw 30 touchdown passes on this play. As a matter of fact, I think we in Cincinnati back in the early 80s created this play.
Well, let me ask you, though. That's a cool thing if that is the case. But, I mean, how many times did you run that play on, like, the 5-yard line, the 2-yard line, as opposed to a 52-yard touchdown, whatever it was, from a guy who's probably the slowest offensive player they have that's not an offensive lineman?
And again, I know that most times offenses do run the ball there, and how many times this weekend in the NFL did we see opposing defenses stop teams on fourth down when they're trying to run the ball up the middle?
Yep.
So this was about as good a call as, I think it's Ben Johnson.
It is.
OC for Detroit. He calls this play, and it is executed to absolute perfection. And, it's kind of like similar to what happened in the Minnesota-Indianapolis game when they threw the ball to Dalvin Cook, and he took off for that touchdown after the scoop and score was screwed up, and the penalty was added to everything, so many different things happening. So it was that kind of play where, where the hell are the 11 guys on defense? Where is everybody?
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that somebody at least would have made a tackle and it wouldn't have been a touchdown. Maybe they stop them at the 15-yard line or something like that and give themselves another opportunity. But that was just a total backbreaker, absolute backbreaker. And now the Jets have to win out. And they've got this hot Jacksonville team coming in, and Zach Wilson's probably going to have to play again on Thursday night. I mean, the Jets went from 6-3 to 7-7, and right now they've got no room for error anymore.
So at halftime yesterday, I didn't think his first half was all that great. I did love the play design where he hits C.J. Uzomah for the touchdown, and that play was reminiscent of the throw that he had in his pro day at BYU. He rolls left and he throws it back right, and that play is a design play. That's not a broken play or anything. That's the way the play is supposed to be run, and you could see the arm strength. You could see, there are certain things that Zach does, and you're like, holy Christ, the kid can really play. And then all of a sudden the inaccuracies come in, the blatant, disregard for, throwing an interception to start the second half. I said it at halftime. I said, okay, he played okay. He was solid. Just don't make any mistakes in the second half. Don't give the Lions, a gimme touchdown or whatever. And it led to a field goal for the Lions, that interception. But it just was a point where I felt like he was under duress in the first half, where Jared Goff was not under duress. Jared Goff was standing back there just surveying the whole entire field. But the good news is that the defense bowed its back in the red zone and didn't give up points or settle for a field goal. So, I just felt like the Jets were right there, and that game was there for them to win. But the second half, Zach Wilson, forget the last couple minutes, the crazy plays and the exciting plays. Up to that point, I just felt like he was not playing great. I would my overall performance grade for him is probably going to be like a C-.